learners, welcome once again to Yellow Land YouTube platform, and in today's tutorial we're going to be learning how to make a simple backpack with jean materials, and I added a little bit of chinos material to add some color. So we have our metal adjuster and our squaring, and this is a long, very long handled bag. So if you're making a bag not so school bag, something that looks more stylish, classic, this is the kind of bag that you want to make. I'm also going to be teaching you how to make your bag fully lined.
First, I'm going to be taking this pattern from our initial tutorial and I'm going to be making it more slimmer on the length. So I'm going to reduce 1 inch from the side. So I've marked 1 inch. I'll fold it so that I can effect the shape on the new cutting. So I'll cut by 1 inch. So I've removed 1 inch from the original pattern. If you do not know how we came about this pattern, kindly watch our previous video. So I've cut the bag fabric for the pattern and I've left ½ inch allowance for the seam allowance to sew. Then I'm going to measure the top part for the gusset and I'm going to take the measurement. I'll also measure the base part for the gusset and I'm also going to take the measurement. If you do not understand any of these things that I'm doing, kindly watch the previous tutorial on how to make a school bag. So I've cut the lining for the two bag fabrics, that's for the front and for the back, and this is the bag that I'm trying to replicate. So there is the zip pocket in front, so I'm going to mark 5 inches from the top and I'm going to mark ½ inch from that 5 inch mark for the zip opening. So I'll create a line. I've created a line for where the zip is going to get to in front of the bag, and it is just 1.1 inch distance from the side. Then I'm going to measure middle, that's half of the points that I have marked initially, and I'm going to slit it open. That's for the zip side. So I'm going to effect the slit from the pattern on the bag fabric. So basically the slit I just made, I'll effect it on the bag fabric. Okay, so at the edge, I'm going to cut into like a V cut. So I'm going to slant my hand and cut into the bag so that I have a V cut. So I'm going to have a V cut on the corner and I'm going to slit open the opening for the front zip of the bag. So you can see the V cut that I made on the corner on the two ends. So if it is not well slitted, the V cut, you can go in a little bit more, just as I'm doing in this video. So once you have it like that, I'm going to measure the total length, which is 8 inches, and I'm going to cut these chinos. So this is a yellow chinos material and I'm using 1.5 inches. I folded it, so that's 3 inches by 8 inches that I've used. So I've cut the gusset of the bag, the zip and the base gusset. So this is the zip gusset and I'm going to slit it into two. So I'm slanting it to create, a little bit of design for the zip compartments. So just slit it into two. Then for the front pockets, for the front zip pockets, we are going to cut lining for it. So I want the lining to get to the body, to the edges of the bag. So that's why I'm using the bag to cut the lining. So I'm going to cut off the excesses on the sides. So first thing I want to do is to do the front zip. So place the lining on the front of the bag, allow there to be some allowance at the top after the slit, and then sew around the slit. So just sew around the slit. Note that I'm sewing from the wrong side. The lining is on the front side of the bag, is on the right side of the bag. So I've placed the lining on the right side of the bag. So once we are done sewing like that and we've created the lines for the slit, I'm going to effect the cutting on the jean material, that's on the bag fabric. I'm going to effect it on the lining as well. So I'm also going to slit it open and create the V cut so that it reflects on the lining. Then you're going to push the lining inwards through the hole that you just made. So push the lining inwards through the hole that you just made. So the lining is going to help you to fold the edges so that there is an allowance for the zip to go through, to stay on the bag. So I've neatly defined it. I've used the lining to draw in the bag fabric. So you place the zip cloth, you place it underneath of the material. Okay, remember it is already lined, so just place the zip underneath the material. Already you would have put your zipper pull and then you sew. So before you sew the top part, you want to sew your chinos, right? The chinos material is just for fancy. So you're going to sew your chinos on the zip first at the top. So look for where the downward zip gets to, and that's where the tip of the chinos is going to also get to. So once you have that, then you know that there is excess left at the top. So that's where you sew. Just sew your zip. Sew your zip on the chinos material. And then push the chinos material inward such that it covers the face of the zip in front. And then ensure that your lining is well placed behind. Ensure that your lining is well placed behind, it's not folding so that you don't sew wrongly. Then you continue your stitching. So you stitch on the side and then you stitch on the top. So still use the lining to push in the bag fabric at the top so that it is neat. Ensure that everything is well arranged underneath and then you stitch on it. So you also create some double stitching so that it does not lose in. So here we already have our fronts fixed. Then the back side of the zip, I'm going to trim off the excess chinos material. I'm going to trim that off, and then I'm going to cover the lining at the back, the lining for the pocket. So basically bring the downward parts, bring it towards the top, and then you join it at the top. Then you also join the sides as well. Then for the zip of the bag, the zip compartment of the gusset, I'm going to place the zip cloth on the lining and then make the right side of the bag fabric to face the right side of the zip, while I sandwich the zip in between the bag fabric and the lining. So you're going to sew on the wrong side. Basically follow the shape that you made on your zip gusset. So here I'm done sewing and I'm going to cut off the excess zip. You can see what we have here. And then I'm going to top stitch on the bag fabric. Okay, so I'm using bag fabric because you may not be using jean, you may be using leather or any other type of material, maybe a shoki or ankara for your bag. So not necessarily that because I use jean, you also have to use jean. You can also use leather or any other material and follow the same process, the same steps. So you top stitch on it so that it becomes flat and neat. So after top stitching, you want to sew the second part of the zip gusset. So you do the same thing. You place the lining downwards, then you place the zip in between, and then you cover it up with the bag fabric, and then you sew on the wrong side. Once you're done sewing, next thing is you bring it to the right side, and then you top stitch. Okay, so I'm done top stitching and we have the shape of our bag back. So next thing is you're going to bring the base gusset and you're going to make the bag fabric, the right side of the bag fabric to face each other. But first insert your zipper pull so that you don't forget, and then place your zip gusset or your base gusset. Make sure that the bag fabric, the right sides are facing each other, and then the lining will be on the lining as well. So the lining will be on the lining, the zip, the back fabrics, the right sides will face each other. Once you're done with that, you top stitch on the base gusset. So you're going to look for the midpoint of your zip gusset, okay? So look for the midpoint of your zip gusset. That's basically you folding the zip gusset in two equal sides, and then you notch the mid part. Then once you've done that, from the notch part of the zip gusset and the notch part of the front of your bag, you place them together and then you sew round, as you can see me do in this video. Okay, so this tutorial is building on past knowledge that I have shared. If you've not watched the first video on how to make a school bag that is on our channel, you may want to watch the video so that you understand what is going on here. So this video is building on past knowledge. So join the two gussets together, that's the base gusset and the zip gusset. Join them together, ensure that the lining is on the lining while so the lining has to be on the lining while you sew the zip gusset. Also, you want to top stitch on the base gusset, okay, and you don't want the lining to be underneath. So you're going to watch out that the lining is not underneath of what you're sewing, and then you top stitch. So top stitch on the base gusset. Once you're done top stitching, you want to finish your sewing. So you finish sewing the gusset to the body of the bag. So in this case, we are sewing the front first. You're sewing the front of the bag first, and then you stop the stitching where you started it from, which is the mid part of the front compartment. So this is what we have by the time we are done. We've been able to do the front and the zip gusset. So for the handle of the bag, you're going to fold till you have 1 inch. So you're going to fold your handle till you have 1 inch width. So the width of the handle is going to be 1 inch, and then you're going to sew it. Then you also find the midpoint of the back of your bag after you've sewn your handle. So remember, you will have 2 handles, okay? So I've done that off camera. So one handle will be on the right, another one will be on the left, and then you will have an hanger handle as well. So when you want to hang your bag on a nail, there's going to be an handle in the middle where you can use to hang your bag. So that's what I'm fixing right there. So I'm using this tiny folded piece of jean material to do the hanger. So just basically put it in the middle while your handles are beside it, okay? So your handles can be far apart from each other, or you can make them to be very close to each other. Just depends on your personal preference. Then you trim off the excesses. Then you're going to take your square ring as well. You're going to use a piece of material to hold it downwards towards the base part of the side of the back of the bag. So you're going to stitch that down. So you need a square ring for this. So you stitch that down, and you do so for the second side as well. So for the left and then for the right. So basically a piece of jean that you've already sewn. Just use it to hold the D-rings to the corners of the bag, to the sides towards the base of the bag. So that's going to hold your handle. Once you're done doing that, you would insert your handle into the adjuster. Okay, so take your adjuster. I'm using 1 inch adjuster in this case because the handle width is 1 inch. So after you've inserted it into the adjuster, you pass it through the ring at the base, and then you make the handle to go into the adjuster, into the mid part of the adjuster, and then bring it out again. So once you've brought it out like that, you're creating a loop basically. And then you're going to stitch it. Okay, so if you do not understand this part, there's a video on our channel that explains how you can fix hooks and rings. Okay, so you can check that. It also teaches you how to fix adjuster. So you do the same thing for the second handle. Pass it through the adjuster. Pass it through the adjuster ring. Pass it through the ring, the square ring, and then you pass it through the adjuster again. So pass it through the adjuster again, and then you top stitch. So you stitch the hand downwards. So here our handle has been, the strap of our bag has been fixed. So you can now adjust the handle of your bag to make the bag to drop, or to make it to be very close to your neck or your back. So you see that it's easily adjustable. Easily adjustable. So once you're done with the back of your bag, place it on the lining. Okay, place it on the lining, and then you bring the gussets that you've already attached the front to. Remember, we've attached the front to the gusset. So bring the gusset. So the other edge of the gusset, the notch part, place it on the notch part of the middle of the back of the bag. So make them to meet at the midpoint. That's the midpoint you've marked on the back of the bag and as well as on the zip gusset. You make them to align and then you start sewing from there. So you're going to sew round. So for context, if you want your bag to be sturdy, since we are using a fabric material here, you can also put EVA foam inside of your bag. So you cut EVA foam for front and then for the back, and then you insert it in between the lining and the body of the bag. This is a taping material. It's more like your webbing or otherwise called belts, but this is softer, so it's called taping when you go to the market here in Nigeria. So that's what you're going to use to bind the edges of your bag. So the rough edges of your bag, you're going to bind it with taping. So you're going to sew round for both the front and then for the back. So this makes your bag to be neat. Once you're done taping the edges of the bag, next thing is you want to turn it out. So you turn it out and bring out the shape of the bag. Okay, so if you have EVA foam inside the bag, it's going to stand on its own, but because it is just purely fabric, that's why it's not standing on its own. So you can put stiffeners in your bag to stiffen it, but in this case it's just pure jean fabric. You can see what we have here. Our bag is ready.